So, we're diving into a really incredible story today, all about a man named Gavin Maxwell and his very unlikely companion, Mijbil the Otter. It all starts with a simple question. What happens when you decide to replace a beloved dog? Not with another dog, but with a wild otter from the marshes of Iraq. I mean, think about it. Ever considered trading in a dog for an otter? It sounds like a pretty wild idea, right? Well, for the author Gavin Maxwell, this wasn't just some passing thought. It was the beginning of an absolutely incredible, real-life adventure. So where does a story like this even begin? Well, it starts with a feeling I think a lot of us know all too well, the loneliness you feel after losing a pet. After his dog passed away, Maxwell knew he wanted a new companion, but he was determined to find something a little different. So picture this. Maxwell is traveling in Basra, Iraq, and a friend of his just casually mentions that the nearby Tigris marshes are famous for otters. He says, "Hey, you should get one of those." And just like that, the idea took root. Maxwell had been waiting for his mail for weeks, and nothing was showing up. Then, finally, a very different kind of delivery arrived. It wasn't a letter. It was something alive, and it was headed straight for his door. Can you imagine the scene? A sack is delivered to his room, and it's wriggling. The anticipation must have been incredible. What on earth could be inside? And there he was, a small, sleek creature straight from the marshes. Maxwell named him Mijbil, or Midge for short. And that, right there, was the beginning of an extraordinary friendship. You know, Mijbil's personality started to shine through almost immediately. He wasn't just some wild animal in a room. He was incredibly intelligent and so playful. Yeah, it took him a little while to adapt, but once he did, he became obsessed with water. He even figured out how to turn on the bathroom faucet all by himself. Maxwell was just constantly amazed by the clever little games Midge would invent. So, Mijbil had settled into his new life, but they were still halfway across the world, which brings us to their next big challenge. Getting this very active, very curious otter all the way back to London. And as you can probably imagine, it was not going to be simple. The hurdles started right away. British Airlines had a strict no animals policy, flat out refused. So Maxwell had to scramble. He finally found another airline that would take Mijbil, but with one condition. He had to be in a box. The problem? Maxwell had just 1 hour before the flight to get one ready. And this is where things went from complicated to downright chaotic. Maxwell comes back from a quick meal to find the box torn up and bloodied. Mijbil had hurt himself trying to escape. After a frantic cleanup, he barely made the flight. But the second he opened the box to check on him, Mijbil shot out like a rocket, vanishing into the cabin. It was absolute pandemonium. Thankfully, a very kind air hostess came to the rescue. This was such a crucial moment. Instead of getting angry, the air hostess just helped catch Mijbil and told Maxwell to keep the otter on his lap. As Maxwell put it, I was filled with gratitude for her kind words. You know, it was just this small act of kindness that completely changed their journey. So, against all odds, they make it. Now, Mijbil has to adapt to a brand new world, a world far, far away from the marshes of Iraq. Welcome to London. And adapt he did. Mijbil's playful nature just came alive in London. He became absolutely fascinated with marbles and even invented a whole complicated game with Maxwell's old broken suitcase. His creativity, it seems, knew no bounds. Of course, taking an otter for a walk on a lead through the streets of London, well, that's going to get some attention. And the reactions were, shall we say, pretty imaginative. Londoners had no idea what they were looking at. People would just stare and shout out the wildest guesses. Was it a baby seal? A squirrel? A beaver? One person even guessed a hippo. It just shows how out of place and yet how fascinating Mijbil really was. But the absolute best reaction came from a laborer who was digging a hole. He just stopped, leaned on his shovel, stared, and finally asked Maxwell with just total bewilderment, "Here, mister, what is that supposed to be?" It just perfectly captures the charming absurdity of the whole situation. So, through all the chaos, the travel nightmares, and the public spectacle, what is this story really about? Ultimately, this is a story about connection. It's about the incredible bond that can form between two beings, no matter how different they are. It's a tale of companionship that goes way beyond species, proving that a deep friendship really can be found in the most unexpected of places. And that really leaves us with a final thought. Mijbil was far from a typical pet, but the bond they shared was just as deep as any. It really makes you wonder, what can these unconventional companions teach us about the very nature of connection itself?